Hi, I'm Joe Pace with KNBU-TV, Roundtable. Today's topic is Olympic wrestling. I'm joined today by two of my wrestling teammates. We have Reeb and Beau Bennett. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Indeed. So, we'll just start by asking, both of you have wrestled for a very good amount of your lifetime. So, Beau, how did this decision to cancel Olympic wrestling in the 2020 Olympics, how did that hit you? What was your initial reaction to that?
My initial reaction was I really wanted to throw my remote through my window or my TV or something. When I found out, I was like, they're taking away the only thing that wrestling has after college. We really don't have anything aside from Olympics. So,
Zach, what about you?
Right. In our sport, there's no professional league. There's no big contract or signing bonus. So for wrestling, the Super Bowl, the pinnacle of our sport is the Olympic medal, and for taking that away from the sport, it's absolutely tragic.
Mm-hmm. Very devastating. So just to clarify for our viewers, there's been some misconception. Wrestling will be in the 2016 Olympics. It is the 2020 Olympics that the IOC voted on to eliminate wrestling from the 2020 Olympics. So according to ESPN, the IOC reviewed 26 sports, and out of all the sports, they decided that wrestling was to be cut and the pentathlon is to stay. And for those of you who don't know, the pentathlon is a sport that combines fencing, horse riding, swimming, running, and shooting together. Well, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I really don't know what I think about that. That's kind of a random sport of things that doesn't really sound like a competition.
How about viewers? How many people actually watch the pentathlon on TV? I know I would wake up whenever wrestling's playing in the Olympics because I look forward to that, and I'm sure other people do as well. And people in other countries. Wrestling in other countries is a very patriotic sport where the country can really get behind their warriors of their country. People will really look forward to wrestling. Not so much in just America, but Russia, Ukraine, Bulgaria. Wrestlers are celebrities.
Absolutely.
I'm surprised that they because they have less representative countries in the sport. How did they even possibly get the amount of votes that wrestling was getting? It was kind of from left field.
And for our viewers who don't know either, what the IOC does, the process that they undergo, they put it into a formula and they base it on 39 different criteria with everything from TV ratings, ticket sales, global participation, and popularity. And we touched on Russia a second ago, and the Russian Olympic Committee president, Alexander Zhukov, said that we will use all our strength to persuade the IOC not to exclude wrestling from the Olympic program. And also on top of that, the U.S. Olympic Committee CEO, Scott Blackman, also expressed his surprise with the IOC's decision, saying, given the history and tradition of wrestling. So right off the bat, you have two of the major superpowers of the world who are completely against what the IOC has decided to do. So given that you have, Russia and the United States backing wrestling 100%, do you think that will influence the IOC's final decision?
I hope so. In the early years of the first Olympics and whatnot, man woke up and there were only a couple things that were really a competition, and that was who could run the fastest, who could throw this large object the farthest, and then man-to-man who could pin the other man or physically beat the other man.
Exactly.
And for them to eliminate, something so of its origin and so natural and so big in a lot of people's lives, it's just really hard to think that the IOC is going to keep their decision with.
Nothing weighs more than tradition with wrestling dating back into the first Olympics. With wrestling being one of the, besides boxing and running and individual sports, I feel like countries really look up to their individual sport athletes and can really get behind them.
There are numerous people, especially even in our own country, all these news sites on Facebook and Twitter and whatever else saving wrestling. It's there's a big push, and I'm sure we're not the only country that's banding together. It's kind of a world fight for the world sport.
Yeah. And nationally, the wrestling community is, it's a very strong community. We've taken blows every year with certain schools dropping collegiate programs, and on the other hand, collegiate programs adding wrestling like Baker did 4 years ago. We're all living proof of the wrestling community coming together. So I just think everything will work out. There's petitions out there to be signed. If you go to themat.com and click on the link and add your name to help fight the fight.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, just for our viewers, there are accounts and profiles on Twitter and both Facebook that are gaining massive support. So if you believe that wrestling should be included in the 2020 Olympics, please show your support by joining those accounts. I would like to thank Zach Reeb and Beau Bennett for joining us today on this edition of the Baker Roundtable. We'll see you all next time.